joining me today. Today I'm going to be setting up my new bullet journal. Yes, it is my new one I'm setting up in March, even though I just set one up for January, but sometimes that's life. I'll be using a lot of the same spreads I used in January, plus I'll be adding a couple more. I'll definitely be adding a shipping tracker because apparently that's a thing for me. And I'm going to be stamping again because it was so much fun. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. So let's get started. Today's video is a little bit longer because it is a migration / new bullet journal setup. So I do apologize for the length and I hope you get something out of it for your own bullet journal setups. So I'm starting off with a future log. I don't use it as much as I'd like to, but it's nice to have the option in case something comes up and then it's somewhere to write it down for the future. For this setup, I am using my Archer and Olive A5 dot grid notebook. I'm also using my Acrylographs in the warm fall and the dual tone colors in both the 0.7mm and the 3mm tips. I am also using my Tombow dual brush pens in the corresponding colors to my Acrylographs, and they match quite nicely, so I was quite happy about that. I am also using my Tombow mono drawing pens and some calendar stickers out of my shop. For my stamps, I'm using a Miss Sparkle & Co. alphabet stamp set that I got in a clearance bin a couple of years ago, as well as the Tall and Skinny Alphabet from Studio L2E. I have those linked on the blog so you can go check those out. Now, my favorite part of this entire setup was the tabs. I really enjoyed having those tabs in my last notebook, so I decided to incorporate them again, but this time I colored them in with the Acrylographs and I wrote on them with white jelly roll, and I absolutely love how it turned out. I couldn't be happier. So I kept a lot of the same layouts that I had in my setup that I did in December for 2021, and that's because I did like the setup, so I didn't get as much of a chance to use them as I would have liked. But I decided to go ahead and I added two more. I added a mini reading log and a shipping log as well. When cutting my tabs, I used a craft knife or craft scissors, whatever I felt was more comfortable. Some angles were a bit more difficult to cut, so I just went with what felt natural. When cutting with my craft knife, I did put a piece of cardboard between my pages to protect the pages underneath, and that makes a huge difference. So I thought I would carry on my theme from my cover page quote and doodle the flowers and color it in with Acrylographs, and I actually really like how it turned out. I honestly didn't plan out too much of the decoration portion of these layouts, and so I kind of flew by the seat of my pants as I went, and I actually really loved how it turned out. Now, I haven't spoken much about stamping in this video so far. It is one of my favorite things to do in a bullet journal. I'll link my stamping video that I've done before up in the cards for you, that you can check out some of my tips and tricks for stamping in a bullet journal. I also went over my painted doodles in a monoline pen. I really liked how the flowers and the leaves popped after I did that, and the mono pen worked really well over top of the Acrylograph paint pen, so I was really happy with that. And when it came to labeling my tabs, I used my white jelly roll again to write those down. You'll see me later on in the video make some mistakes, and then I was able to just go in over top with the paint pen again, wait for it to dry, and then write over top with the jelly roll. Now, this layout is my video Kanban board. Basically, it's a task list of everything I go through when I do my videos, and I just go in, write down the video, and check mark under what I've done for the video. I found this to be the best layout I'd done for 2021 so far. So I was definitely recreating it in this new bullet journal. I have the same Kanban board for my blog as well, which you'll see. If you're not familiar with a Kanban board, I will link that video up in the cards for you as well. But it's basically a productivity tool to keep track of where projects are at. So I have my video Kanban and my blog Kanban, which are more like task lists. And then you will see I put together a generic kind of Kanban board as well. And that's what I use to keep track of the projects that I have going on. The biggest challenge with this setup was definitely waiting for everything to dry. I had to wait for the stamp ink to dry and the acrylographs to dry. So it might look like the order I'm doing things in is a bit strange, but that's mostly because I am waiting for things to dry. And due to editing, I cut out a lot of the time that I spent waiting for things to dry. So that's why it doesn't look like I'm waiting that long, but in reality, I did wait not as long as you'd think. The acrylographs do dry pretty quickly, which I appreciated. But I have one of my pens decided to be extra runny. So whenever I used that one, I made sure to wait a little bit longer. What you saw me do there is I went in with a corner punch and corner punched my pages just to kind of tie them in with the rest of the journal that has rounded edges. It's not a have to, but I have the tool. I thought it would be fun to incorporate. At this point, I was still using my 0.7mm tip to color in the tabs, and I kind of gave up and pulled out my 3mm pens to color in the tabs, and it went a lot faster. And this is what I meant by I was unprepared and I was sketching in as I went. And as always, I incorporate my borders just to give it more of a finished look. So I did encounter some smudging as I went, but I found using the white acrylograph over top of the smudge was great. I'd wait for the smudge to dry properly and then go over it with the white acrylograph, wait for it to dry, and then go in with the white acrylograph again. And it dried as white as the page, which I really loved. And this is the generic Kanban board that I was referring to. Again, it's to help you focus on projects and keep track of where the projects are at. So I have my projects that I have to do. I have an in progress portion of the Kanban board, projects that are ongoing, projects that need to be expedited, projects that are on hold, and then of course my favorite column, projects that are done. And I use sticky notes on this page, and the sticky notes just move through the productivity cycle as I finish them or as I work on them. that was an example of where I used my white acrylograph to clean up some of the smudging. So this page is my social media tracker. This is just an overview where I keep track of how things are growing and how fast they're growing. And since it's March, I'll be migrating all of my January, February stuff into this new bullet journal to have everything in one place. When I do a bullet journal migration, when I fill this one up, I probably won't move everything over, and I will have new layouts for you to finish off the year. But for now, being that it is so early in the year, I decided to just move everything over. So yes, I am a pencil first person, and so 90% of what I do will be pencil first. To add a bit of dimension to my flowers and my leaves, I changed them up a little bit and went over the color with either a darker color or a lighter color. For my leaves that were really small, I just used my white jelly roll to create some highlights. Basically, I just went with what the size of the image called for. So these two layouts are my budgeting layouts. The page on the left is my work budget. I keep track of any apps or software that I pay for, any supplies I purchase, inventory, and then miscellaneous costs like customs and duty. And on the right-hand side is my craft budget that I'm trying to keep track of and reel in a little bit. This is another great example of using the white acrylograph. I wrote Wednesday instead of March. So I went over with the acrylograph once and it still kind of showed the black paint through. And then when I went over it a second time, it was clear. And because I wrote the months in with an acrylograph pen, it went over the white paint just perfectly. So as you could see there, the white dried pretty nicely and covered the mistake completely, which I loved. I will definitely be adding the white acrylograph into my correction collection of pens. If you have any questions that come up while watching this video that I haven't addressed, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer them. This is a 160 GSM journal, so the pages hold up pretty well to the paint and the stamping. And so there is pretty much no bleed through and no ghosting. And if you're wondering how I kept track of which pen I was using and when, I edited a lot of that out where I picked up the wrong pen and had to replace it with the right one because they all look the same. So these pages are the courses and my book log as well. So for my courses, I'm talking about Skillshare courses that I want to take or any other courses that come up. I know I have paid for a couple of courses and I want to make sure that I do them and finish them and take advantage of it. And then for the books, I just did a quick simple book log with the name and author, the platform, meaning whether it's a book or an audiobook, and then a star to indicate the rating, and then a column to tick off whether I finished reading it or not. My final 2 pages are my wish list and my shipping tracker. So for my wish list, it's pretty basic, what it is, where it's from, and then a check mark if I get it. For my shipping log, I included what it is, where it's from, the date I ordered and the date it shipped, and then obviously a check mark for if it's received or not. So I'm hoping this will help me keep track of my stuff that's shipping. So I hope you enjoyed the setup today. I do have a flip through at the end so you can see how everything came together and looks together. But thank you again so much for your time today. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or comments. I always appreciate it. Thank you so much.